of the Rupununi and the Esiquibo. That time when I eat, though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right, so we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know, we gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Esiquibo. That time when I eat, though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right, so we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one courage, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere, make no mistake. Cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one courage, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time when night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one courage, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one courage, not a blade of grass.
Thank you very much and welcome to this second Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. Good morning to everyone. And I want to introduce to you the judges and the teams for the first debating session in this second National Speakers Youth Parliament. Last year, we had 16 youth groups from across the country battling it out for the coveted title of champions. We witnessed some exciting and thought-provoking debates from all groups. In the end, the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement emerged as victors of the inaugural competition. The Parliament of Guyana, and I in particular, am extremely honored to once again host this competition. I'm confident that we are in for some exhilarating debates from these eager participants. Today, we have two new faces in our judges' panels. Last year, two of our judges, Neil Marks and Ms. Nazima Ragabir, they're away studying, but we have two replacements who will certainly be up to the task. Our chief judge today is Ms. Indrani Chanderpal. Chief Judge, Ms. Chanderpal is the chairperson of the Women and Gender Equality Commission and was elected as president of the Inter-American Commission for Women, served during the period 2001-2003. She sat in Parliament for 27 years. I want to say alongside me too. As a government minister, She served for 2 terms, serving as Minister of Human Services and Social Security, and she also chaired numerous parliamentary committees. Our second judge today is Mr. Niaz Subhan, a former student of St. Joseph High School and the Bishop's High School. Niaz also went to the University of Guyana, Faculty of Natural Sciences. Mr. Subhan served as a member of parliament from 1997 to 2001. Mr. Subhan has been in the media for over 30 years in many capacities, including television and radio host for various programs and on several stations. He hosted the very iconic morning show Guyana Today for 10 years. He currently is the Chief Executive Officer acting of the National Communications Network. He has 35 years in theater and filmmaking as an actor, director, producer, writer. Also, he is a cultural activist. Our third judge today is Ms. Monette Garnett Christopher, returning from last year. Ms. Garnett Christopher is the Chief Administrative Officer of the Parliament. She started her career at Queen's College as an economics teacher. Thereafter, she joined Parliament as a planning and management analyst. Ms. Christopher has a master's degree in business administration, a bachelor's degree in social sciences from the University of Guyana. She's no stranger to us and public speaking, having been with the Cacique Toastmasters Club, serving on the executive. Today, the two teams are the Linden Superstars Youth Group. They're the proposing team. The Linden Superstars Youth Group was established on August 15, 2019. The group consists of 12 members, of which 5 are on their executive side. The objective of this group is to provide empowerment for the youths of Region 10 while achieving the common goal of progression in all aspects. Their first speaker will be Mr. Stephen Lewis, 26 years old from Amelia's Ward, Mackenzie. Their second speaker will be Mr. Sean Duggan, 19 years old, also from Amelia's Ward. And their third speaker will be Ms. Sharmila Solomon. That name sounds familiar. Coming back, 23 years old from Amelia's Ward also. The opposing team is the Golden Om Dharmic Youth Organization. The Golden Om Dharmic Youth Organization provides a difference in our society while serving as a voice for youth, regardless of religious affiliation. It seeks to inspire our young people to live positive lifestyles and rise above the ills of society. They are founded on 3 pillars: knowledge, discipline, and service. They have 5 broad areas of focus: empowerment, humanitarian, education, culture, and sport. Their first speaker will be Ms. Sherian Mangru, 27 years old from New Amsterdam. Their second speaker will be Karam Chan Sugrim, 22 years old from East Kanji. And their third speaker, Danwantri Prasad, 29 years old from Bath Settlement, East Babis. A lot of familiar names. But before we start, we want to do two things. We have as a very special guest among us today, who we will introduce to you shortly. Today, has been declared a National Day of Prayer by His Excellency. And in observance of our National Day of Prayer, we ask that you stand and in your own religion and in your own way, say a silent prayer for 1 minute. Amen. Ami, how are you? And a very special guest. I think everybody in Guyana and perhaps the whole world have seen an episode of The Young and the Restless. And today in Guyana for the first time is a very charming star of that long-running soap opera. She is Miss Victoria Rowell, better known as Drusilla. Debaters, viewers, let me introduce you to The Young and the Restless, live from Guyana, Drusilla, who will say a few words to us. Please.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. My deep thanks to the Honorable Speaker of the House, Mansour Nadir, for this invitation on this auspicious educational day in these hallowed halls. I also wish to recognize the judges, chief among them, Chief Judge Mrs. Chandrapal, for your work in human services. Excuse me. I also wish to recognize Vindhya Prasad, Minister Vindhya Prasad, for her work in human services and social security. I had the pleasure of meeting her yesterday to discuss what I care about, which is mentoring Indigenous communities, fine arts education, as fine art saves lives, the preserver of classical dance arts, specifically Indian dance arts. As a former dancer, it means so much to me. The discipline, the focus applies to anything in life. But to you, Speaker, a leader who understands labor, a leader who understands that hard work can lead to positive results. Thank you for keeping an eye on that. As an athlete myself, I appreciate the Speaker's passion for sports, for all, inclusion of all, fitness, health, team spirit. As president of the historical Everett Cricket Club, we need this type of leadership. And congratulations to everyone on the National Youth Debating Competition. All of this is near and dear to my heart. As a child from birth, I was placed into an orphanage in Portland, Maine, and immediately placed by Health and Human Services in the state of Maine into the care of an older Black woman who was born in 1902, a mother of 10 children, a pianist, a farmer, a woman who made her own clothes. We had a well, an artesian well. She also worked for government at the Social Security office, went back to work so that she could keep me as a senior citizen in Boston, Massachusetts. So we relocated. She put a premium on education. Though we were not of financial means, we were of intellectual wealth. My foster mother owned 60 acres of land that she purchased as a welder in rural Maine. She taught me the importance of generational wealth and reciprocity and passing it forward. She said, you cannot avoid hard work. You have to walk through the fire. You have to ask the hard questions. And if no is your answer, look for a way to find common ground and collaborate. Agatha Armstead taught me the rudimentary steps of classical ballet from a book. And when people said impossible, she said, it's impossible not to try. The lessons she taught me led to a full Ford Foundation scholarship in Cambridge, Massachusetts, just behind Radcliffe College, a full American Ballet Theater scholarship in New York City, which led to joining the junior company, which led to me becoming an accredited Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis accredited ballet teacher. And by the way, I do want to visit one of the ballet schools here, I hope, while I'm here in Guyana. This is my first trip, and I'm so proud to be here. All of this has led me on the path that I am on now, working in Hollywood for Viacom CBS. Yes, The Young and the Restless, Diagnosis Murder. Some of you may know me from Dumb and Dumber and other projects. Now I'm on a new series, CBS series, titled Good Sam, where I play the chairwoman of the hospital. And I cannot do this alone. I do it with my community that I never left. Today, I direct, produce, own, and license original content to various groups, Viacom, CBS, BET, Television Jamaica, and I hope to continue to do so. And why not work here in Guyana? Let's talk. Jobs of this sort in theater are the cultivator of economic inclusion. Hundreds of jobs are realized from graphics to catering. All people of color and women who are often marginalized are included in my productions. And so I give thanks to life and breath, especially during this unprecedented time of COVID, during unrest in the world. I ask a power greater than myself to bless us all for peace, for health, for strength, for courage during this time, during a time of national prayer and fasting. And so to that I say, thank you for allowing me to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Ms. Rowell, Drusilla. Thank you. And you will get the taste of the contributions of our youth now. The two groups that we have today, one comes from the east of here, about 70 miles east of here, and the other one comes 70 miles south of the city. So very, very diverse and dispersed groupings. So ladies and gentlemen, we are back on track now, and I want to introduce the moot for today. The moot is a collective voice for Guyana's youth is elusive. I now declare this debate open. The first speaker for the proposition is Mr. Stephen Francis. The proposition is, once again, the Linden Superstar Youth Group. Stephen, it's your turn. to open the batting for the second annual National Speakers Youth Debating Competition. Go ahead.
Good morning. Honorable Speaker, esteemed judges, worthy members of the opposition, all, a pleasant good morning to you. I am tasked with presenting arguments in support of the moot, which states a collective voice for Guyana's youth is elusive. Allow me to define key terms in the moot. A, means singular or one according to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. The Handbook of Medieval Studies defines collective voice as long-term attitudes and opinions articulated by individuals within groups. According to the National Youth Policy 2015 of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, youth is defined as persons from the age range of 14 to 35. Elusive is derived from the word illusion, which means some things that deceive or mislead according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Now, allow me to redefine the moot. Attitudes and opinions by Guyana's young people from ages 14 to 35 is misleading or deceiving. Our second speaker will highlight factors that contribute to poor representation among youth groups. The third speaker will provide statistics on how these needs differs by geographical locations while concreting our argument. Mr. Speaker, honorable judges, elusive opposition. Guyana is a very diverse country. Guyana comprises of 6 races, a vast amount of cultures and traditions, a number of religious organizations from Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. Mr. Speaker, young people are spread across 83,000 square miles, 10 administrative regions, 3 counties, rural to urban. Collective voice can mirror collective behavior. This is the way social movements or societies operate. A collective voice destroys the ability for young people to think independently. Mr. Speaker, this leads to herd mentality. Conformity plays a large part of collective behavior. Members within the group can change their ideas and their thoughts in order to fit in with the rest of the group. Collective movements are fueled by a single purpose. Members of these groups think in clear right and wrong. Mr. Speaker, reasonable arguments do not work on these groups. Young people, Mr. Speaker, can be influenced by outside sources and can become violent. This can cause the formation of a mob and can further develop into riots. Mr. Speaker, young people should be allowed to think and express their ideas independently. Mr. Speaker, young people should not be marginalized for having an independent voice. Young people should not be marginalized for not being a part of a collective group. Therefore, a collective voice for Guyana's youth is elusive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Francis. The next speaker comes from the Golden Dharmic Youth Organization, and their first speaker, Ms. Sherry-Ann Mangru. Ms. Mangru, the floor is yours. You can go ahead, Ms. Mangru.
Honorable Speaker, esteemed judges, learned members of the proposition, colleagues of the opposition, good morning. I, Sherry-Ann Mangru, first speaker of the opposition, stands resolute in challenging the moot. A collective voice for Guyana's youth is elusive. Before proceeding further, permit me to define. They're not hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Permit me to define key terminologies identified as collective voice, youth, and elusive. The August 2019 edition of the Political Quarterly blog posited that collective voice refers to mechanisms that allow individuals to contribute collaboratively to decisions that affect their lives. According to the United Nations, there is no universally agreed international definition of the youth age group. For statistical purposes, the United Nations definition refers to youth as those persons between the ages of 15 and 24. UN also states that several definitions exist for youth within UN entities to be ages 15 to 35. Guyana's definition of youth is aligned with the latter view and is adopted for this debate. Mr. Speaker, the moot suggests that the coming together of Guyana's youth to contribute to decision-making appears to be happening, but in reality, the opposite is obtained. We reject this notion. Throughout our argument, we as a team will illustrate that the notation of a collective voice against youth is not an illusion created, but rather the reality that youths are more than included in each segment of society where their voices are heard and, most importantly, acted upon and not treated in a deceptive manner as the proposition is suggesting. According to Stabrook News columnist Dave Martin, when voices come together in organizations, they attain the power to influence. Any politician in any country can ignore and does ignore the individual expression, but that same politician pays close heed to the collective voice. This, Mr. Speaker, justifies the importance of having this collective voice heard from the youth population. Collective voice by youths is concept sharply aligned to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals agenda, of which Guyana is a signatory. When a government signs up to international agreements such as the 2030 agenda, it clearly communicates commitment, an action pathway, and performance measurement towards a treaty. Young people all over the world, including Guyana, are contributing significantly to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by encouraging participation in local non-governmental organizations. Secondly, by becoming engaged in local politics. In my presentation, I will examine actions taken by Guyana to realize the aforementioned. Guyana has a proud track record of youths working collectively with their organizations to impact the political landscape. Former President Forbes Burnham and Dr. Chetty Jagan in their youth age teamed and formed the People's Progressive Party to fight British imperialism and ultimately led the struggles towards achieving independence. Fast forward to our times, Dr. Barjag in his 30s became a president. Current President Dr. Irfan Muhammad Ali became a minister in 2006 at the age of 27. The support from their organization stands testimony that there is a space for the collective voice of youths in Guyana. Let us examine the current composition of Guyana's parliament. According to data obtained by Inter-Parliamentary Union in 2021, over 25% of current parliamentarians are in the youth bracket. Members of the proposition, isn't this indicative that youths are engaged, that youths are participating in decision-making, that youths are utilizing various political platforms to effect social political change? May I remind you that each parliamentarian represents a constituency, and through parliament, their voices are being heard and acted upon. Everyone recognizes the importance of youths and their voices. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali, in his 2022 New Year's address, echoed the sentiments, and I quote, "I want to hear their views. I want to learn how they think. I want to dialogue with them about the kind of country they wish to inherit," end quote. This ideology paves the way for the new initiative of establishing Presidential Youth Advisory Council. Budget 2022 shows further commitment by the government with $60 million earmarked for youths. This is yet another opportunity among the many existing in Guyana to meaningfully include the voices of youths in matters of governance. Such consideration solidifies our argument that youth voices are taken seriously in Guyana, and it is not elusive as suggested by my colleagues on the other side. Finally, honorable judges, my second speaker will elaborate on harnessing the collective youth voices in institutions, and my third speaker will conclude by highlighting the impact created by collective voice. My voice, your voice matters. I rest my case and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mangru. And now straight to the second speaker for the Linden Superstars Youth Group. And that person is Mr. Sean Duggan. Sean, the floor is yours.
Honorable Speaker, esteemed judges, members of the opposition, I, Sean Duggan, stand today as the second speaker, joining with my colleagues to say, and I quote the moot, a collective voice for Guyana's youth is elusive. Mr. Speaker, the evidence is here. The first point, education. Some youths have a disadvantage due to their geographical location because they don't have access to certain things as compared to a group of youths in Georgetown. Mr. Speaker, a group in Georgetown have access to the internet. They are more proactive. They have a higher level of education as compared to those of a rural group. A collective voice for a group who would be represented by a particular organization will only benefit the members of that group. Those who are unable to participate, their voices will be left unheard, thus raising critique within. Mr. Speaker, the second point, financial differences. The financial difference of status, difference in group. Example with the rural and the Georgetown, again, Mr. Speaker. The Georgetown groups, they may have more financial support from groups abroad and private investors. However, those who do not have that, they are left at a disadvantage, which raises the needs of the groups in different categories. So a collective voice will not be heard because there will be different needs of the groups. Therefore, an affluent group cannot represent. Mr. Speaker, the third and final point is lack of experience. According to a research done by my colleagues, every job that a person would apply for needs requirements. Without the requirements fulfilled, you cannot have a job. Those requirements, most people waiver them. But however, the youths are left at a disadvantage, which is saying, and it is presented in proof, according to an article by the DPR written in 2019, which says that persons who have experience are more likely to be employed in government agencies, whereas young people would not have that opportunity to be employed. However, individuals who have the experience do get employed. Mr. Speaker, the judges, the government of today has been preaching and saying and promising that there will be a youth committee within the government. However, as I stand here today, there is no such thing. So how can the opposition be so elusive and saying that there is these things? Mr. Speaker, there is no youth committee according to the research that I have done. And in this thing, I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Sean. The second speaker for Golden Ohm Dharmic Youth Organization is Mr. Karam Chan Sugrin. Karam Chan, you're on the floor. Karamchan, you'll have to restart. Karamchan, you'll have to restart. We're not getting your audio. No audio.
Sorry.
We're not. Good. You can start now.
All protocols observed, I, Karamchan Subram, rise to support my colleagues in opposing the moot under consideration as I elaborate on the recognition of youth collectivism in the context of state institutions and government apparatus. Honorable judges, Guyana was granted universal adult suffrage in 1953. This singular most important step in our country's history paved the way for all, including youths, to have their voices heard collectively at an election. As the great legend John Lewis said, and I quote, "My philosophy is very simple. When you see something is not right, stand up, say something," end of quote. Elections allow for voices to be heard and acted upon, and governments are held accountable for promises made in a manifesto. Every major political party tries to harness the voice of youths through its youth arm components. The People Progressive Party, with its progressive youth organization, the People's National Congress, through its Guyana youth and student movement, both seek to provide a platform where youth voices are heard and acted upon. In 2015, the International Republican Institute supported Guyana's National Youth Council, brought together interested young people to contribute to governance and to fulfill a promise in the Constitution. Article 13, that is, to recognize youth's role. The Council Voters Awareness Campaign, Vote Like a Boss, targeted young people who had reached 18 and were first-time voters. This effort resulted in the highest youth voters turnout in Guyana's post-independence history in May 2015 national elections. A new government was formed. In the 2020 elections, the same source reported that more than 60% of Guyana's population is younger than 35, while in the past, the country's political leadership paid little attention to this demographic. Guyana's new leaders are now paying more attention to youth. In the 2020 elections, the youth population played a major role in deciding a new government. Let's not forget the role of the youth-led pressure group, Guardian of Democracy, in fighting against attempts to rig the last elections. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development estimated that 54% of the population is below the age of 25. As such, a space was created for youths to be included in the decision-making process. In 2015, the National Youth Policy was tabled and adopted by the National Assembly in 2016. It sought to provide a framework of plans, participation, and representation for youths across Guyana. Colleagues of the proposition, this policy explicitly provides evidence that collective voice is not a mere talk, but action and reality in Guyana. The state's Ethnic Relation Commission had a constituency specific for youth to have representation from the collective to address issues of race relations. Along the government apparatus, the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, formed in 1998, is tasked with nurturing the youth as a powerful entity. In the 2022 budget, this sector was allotted over $3.5 billion. The Gold Scholarship Program attracted thousands of youths, which was birthed by a manifesto promise made by youths. Colleagues of the proposition, this is not deception. Today, I stand proud before all as a prospective member of the Guyana's next Youth Parliament. Youth Parliament continues to serve as a forum to prepare youths to occupy the legislative arm of government. Sources have benefited from this program. Take a read on the parliamentary's website about participants sharing their experiences. These, learned judges, are not fictional stories, but real stories from real people who shared real experiences using opportunities available to them. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And now, for the third speaker for the Linden Superstars Youth Group, Ms. Sharmila Solomon. Sharmila, the floor is yours.
Honorable Speaker, sagacious judges, misleading members of the opposition, audience, a pleasant morning to you all. As the third speaker of the proposition, I stand here to conclude my team's argument in support of the moot, which states, and I quote, "A collective voice for Guyana's youth is elusive." Mr. Speaker, how can the members of the opposition stand before us to say today that a collective voice for Guyana's youth cater to the needs of all youths across Guyana? This is inevitable without dissension. Opinions are not facts, and are not facts that are shared across a nation. This means at no particular time do we all share the same sentiments of a common goal. This can result in conflicting arguments when trying to present a justifiable purpose or goal. For a common example or a prevalent example to illustrate such arguments is the opinion of teachers on the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Some teachers are pro-vax while some teachers are anti-vax. This then favored the government not to relax their strict mandate in having teachers vaccinated in order to progress with the economy. Since these teachers could not come to a common agreement, this created tension within the union and personal problems between members. Secondly, giving excessive power to youth is conflicting to the economy. High and nearly impossible demands will be made by opportunists within the group, and this will disrupt the structured flow of Guyana's system. The second member of the opposition mentioned that Guyana's budget caters for youth. However, in comparison to all the other fields or sectors, it is the lowest budget mentioned. Leaders will be left with tied hands on how to move forward while trying to cater or meet these impossible expectations. And this will result in taking a longer time to produce results. Let us focus now on a regional profile published by UNICEF in 2017, which compares the needs of regions throughout Guyana. We're going to use Region 4 as an example of an urban community and Region 1 as an example of a rural community. The first factor listed by UNICEF is the access to treated water. This publication stated that only 11.8% of Region 4 has access to treated water, while 39.6% of Region 1 has access to treated water. Without proper research, we would come to the misconception that Region 4 would have more access to water treatment because the capital is seated there. This is a big misconception. The second factor is access to the internet. The publication stated that only 75% of the Region 4's community is accessible to the internet, while less than 10% of Region 1 community has access to the internet. The final and most important factor is the availability of institutional resources. 90.4% of Region 4 population of youths have access to the internet, while less than 30% of Region 1 population has access to the internet. Let us use the University of Guyana for an example. With its geographical location, it is not accessible to the members of Region 1 easily. This is definitely biased, Mr. Speaker, and will cause contradiction as it relates to the progression of this nation. I am sure that at this point, the members of the opposition and the public at large will agree with me that a collective voice for Guyana's youth is elusive and does not cater to all the needs of youths across Guyana. Since Guyana is a very diverse nation comprising of 6 races, 3 counties, 10 administrative regions, and a number of religious communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharmila. The third speaker for the Golden Om Dharmic Youth Organization is Ms. Danwanshi Prasad. Ms. Prasad, the floor is yours.
All established protocols observed. A pleasant good morning. Presenting a series of illusions in the political landscape, state and government apparatus My colleagues thus far have effectively rejected the notion that collective voice for the youth in Guyana is elusive. I will emphasize the success stories of youth coming together to effect positive changes in Guyana as I bring closure to my team's argument. In 1994, the first youth policy was drafted with the objective of fostering unity by encouraging youth participation in social, economic, and cultural life. As a result, youth group formation was encouraged. For example, these formations are evident in the many religious bodies which cater specifically for youth's arm across the length and breadth of Guyana. As a member of Burbi's most dynamic youth organization, Golden Om Dharmic Youth Arm of the Guyana Hindu Dharmic Sabha Front, our work in voluntarism is a living example of how effective collective voice can influence societal changes. From taking a stand on alcohol usage, raising awareness on suicide prevention, speaking out on gender-based violence, we have collectively made our voices heard. In terms of impact, let's take suicide prevention by lobbying for more resources to be allocated to address the cause. Guyana has seen a significant reduction in persons engaging in this act after an increase in budgetary allocation. According to figures obtained in Carter Center's Making a Difference Together conference held in 2004, there are over 300 youth-led groups in Guyana. If one is to consider the average membership of an NGO to 10, this means that over 3,000 youths are amplifying their voices across Guyana. If at all in inclusion exist in Guyana, it has to be one that suggests that youths are not given opportunities. The U.S. Agency for International Development Support Program focuses on youth empowerment through exchange programs such as the Youth Ambassadors Program. The Youth Leaders of the Americans Initiative, participants upon return have gained such powerful voices that they influence agenda setting. For the formulation of the 2022 budget, there was consultation section between youth and the government. Some, the very youths who benefit from the above-mentioned program, were in attendance as reported by DPI in February 2022. Why was this done? Simple. In Guyana, youths are widely accepted as agents of change, and with 65% of the population below age 35. According to the last census, Guyana can be considered a youthful nation. Whether it's the fight for gay rights, human rights, better wages and salaries, or decriminalizing suicide, youths through NGOs are successfully causing positive disruption. To fight for a cause, resources are needed. Starbuck News on September 2020 reported that 6 Guyanese organizations received direct funding from the Canadian government youth project funds. This demonstrates that not only youth interests are focused upon, but they are now being given resources to do so. In concluding my team's arguments, we stand firm to say that a collective voice for Guyana's youth is not elusive, as the many instances which we would have made known can clearly depict the inclusiveness of youths in today's society, from youth in parliament to those community-based. From recognitions and awards on many platforms, we as youths are heard, and more so, we as youths collectively have impacted the lives of many. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Prasad. Viewers, audience, we have off to a great start with Linden, Sherian, Sean, Karamchan, Sharmella, and Danwantri setting a very high bar. Thank you all for your presentations this morning. We're going to take a short break so that our debaters can collect their thoughts and present their rebuttals. As they do that, let us hail some of our viewers. We have Stefan from Georgetown and Shakila from Essequibo shouting us out. At this stage, we will invite Mr. Yannick December, our Public Relations Officer, to tell us about the rules of the competition. Yes, it's been a year, so many of our groups, they forget some of the rules. So let us get Yannick to tell us about the rules. Yannick?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The rules of this competition are as follows. Each team must consist of only 3 members, all from the same youth group. Failure to comply will result in the disqualification of the team. Once a team has started the competition, no new member shall be replaced. The first speaker will be the first speaker of the proposition, followed by the first speaker of the opposition, and shall alternate in this order. The time allotted for each speaker are as follows. First speaker, 5 minutes. Second speaker, 4 minutes. Third speaker, 4 minutes. And for the rebuttal, 5 minutes. The rebuttal will be done by the first speaker on each team in order of opposing, then proposing. No new arguments or material shall be introduced into the rebuttal. 10 points will be deducted for introduction of new arguments. A bell will be rung first to indicate that the speaker should commence. The second bell will indicate that 1 minute is remaining, and there will be a final bell when the time has elapsed. 5 points will be deducted from each speaker who does not adhere to the allotted time. In the event of technical difficulties, the speaker may be allotted additional time. This is at the discretion of the judges. Speakers may refer to notes, but should not read them. 5 points will be deducted from any speaker who reads a prepared speech. Points will be awarded for reasoning and logic, originality, relevance, mechanic, articulation, attitude to opponent, development of argument, and cohesion. And finally, the judges' decisions are final. Those are the rules stated for the Speaker's National Youth Debating Competition. Over to you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Yannick, for refreshing us with respect to the rules. Listening to the rules and looking at my timings here, I see that our debaters learned a lot from last year, so timing was impeccable this morning. We have another minute before we call on the first speaker. For the rebuttals, we will have Ms. Sherry Ann Mangru, the Golden Home Dharmic Youth Organization. She will have 5 minutes. The opposition will start the rebuttal. The proposition will close the debate with Mr. Stephen Francis. And the proposition is the Linden Superstars Youth Group. Timer, judges, are we ready? Yes. Ms. Mangru, are you ready? Yes, Ms. Mangru, are you ready with your rebuttal? Good.
Morning. Yes.
Okay, you're on the floor.
Mr. Speaker, esteemed judges, members of the proposition, my voice resonates as I come before you once again to further convince you that we, the members of the opposition, do not support the proposed youth. A collective voice of Guyana's youth is elusive. Mr. Speaker, we have clearly outlined the fruitful history of Guyana's commitment towards not just supporting the collective voices by youths, but Guyana's successful approach towards harnessing the power of collective voices by youths and creating platforms and opportunities into having these voices acted upon. Mr. Speaker, the first speaker of the proposition spoke about the independent voice, where each individual voice should be heard. Mr. Speaker, is it possible that in reality, each individual voice can be heard? Hence, it is quite obvious that the need for a collective voice is necessary. I reiterate, it creates a platform that is much needed for representation from a wide cross-section of society to be recognized. Mr. Speaker, the second speaker of the proposition also stated that education is not adequately being provided to individual youths rather than groups. However, if you would have listened or paid keen attention to my second speaker, you would have heard about the Gold Scholarship Program that attracts thousands of youths, which was birthed by a manifesto promised and made to youths. The second speaker also went on to say that the government of Guyana do not have a youth-affiliated group. How can you make such a strong assumption when my second speaker again clearly outlined the various youth groups through research of political parties, for example, stated the People Progressive Youth Organization? Mr. Speaker, in closing, to say that it is an illusion for a collective voice to be heard is rather presumptuous, especially given the fact of where we are today and what we are doing and the purpose in which we serve as youths in this very platform. My voice, your voice matters. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Sherry-Ann. And for the proposition, the rebuttal is by Mr. Stephen Francis, Linden Superstars Youth Group. Linden, you're on.
And I see. You guys can see me? Okay, good. Mr. Speaker, members of the opposition, judges, all. The opposition are misleading in presenting their statistics because their statistics contradicts their position in the moot. The second speaker for the opposition outlined that 25% of the parliament is represented by young people. 25% only. This means that 75% of our current parliament are not young people. The third speaker spoke about 3,000 young people registered in total across the youth groups across the country. Now, a simple calculation will show you Guyana's population is 786,559 according to the last census. So if you divide 3,000 divided by 7 divided by the population, this would show you that less than 1% of our population, young people, are actively involved. The speaker rebutting, the first speaker rebutting, spoke about the Gold Scholarship. While they spoke about the Gold Scholarship, My third speaker clearly presented statistics to show you the disparity of opportunities between the urban and rural communities. Yes, the gold scholarship is available, but we also heard from my third speaker that less than 10% of persons in region 1 have access to internet. So how could you tell me that the young people's voices are being heard and they are being incorporated and it is not elusive? This is clearly madness, because simple mathematics would show you on a percentage basis that young people represent a minority in contributing their views, they're contributing their passions, in contributing their ideas towards the national objective, which is the one Guyana. Also, the first speaker would have said, young people are included in the government across all ministries and all sectors, but she yet to provide any evidence to support this. This is clearly a baseless claim. This is a complete baseless claim because you're saying young people are included, but you did not provide any statistics, any numbers to support this argument. Therefore, I reiterate my point and my team's position. A collective voice for Guyana's youth is elusive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen, from the Linden Superstars Youth Group. And it's all over. It's now up to the judges. And the judges' decision will be final and is final. We'll have to give our judges an opportunity to do their tabulation and for the chief judge to make the announcements. Once again, this is the first debate in the second Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. The competition started in 2021, and we had 16 youth groups participating in the competition. This year, 15 of those 16 groups have returned. And the one new group participating in 2022 is the Partica Youth Group from Region 7. The competition will be held on Tuesdays and Fridays, 2 debates on each day, one at 10 and one at 2. And the finals will be held towards the end of May. Our teams were paired based on a random process generated through a computer program, and the moods were assigned the same way. Computer program paired the groups and assigned the moods. So there are going to be 8 debates in the first round, and then we move on to the semis and the finals. This year, we have some exciting topics that will be debated, and I'm confident that, as we have seen earlier this morning, the competition will be of an extremely high standard. Our 2 teams for today, to remind those of you who joined earlier and to tell those who are now with us, we have the proposing team is the Linden Superstars Youth Group from Linden, and the opposing group is the Golden Oak Youth Organization from Berbice. The topic today that they debated was an elusive voice, a collective voice for youth is elusive. And excellent research and great presentations permeated the submissions of all 6 of our debaters today. Just checking in with the judges. How are we coming, judges? Judges are still very busy. I don't know if we can get our chief organizer for the debates, Ms. Carlotta Charles, to give our audience an idea of all the groups participating, the 16 groups for this year. Carlotta?
We are a peaceful people. Struggle is a struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces,
This is the 2nd annual Speakers National Youth Debating Competition, and today is the first debate. Ms. Charles, and we are now introducing some of the faces behind the organizing of the competition, and the chief person behind the organization is now in front of the camera, Ms. Carlotta Charles. Carlotta?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to you. Good morning to our judges, debaters, our special guests, and the staff of the Parliament Office, particularly the coordinating, planning, executing team of the 2nd Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. As Mrs. Speaker said, there are 16 groups participating. We should say that they're from across Guyana, from our administrative regions. And the groups are Port Kaituma Youth Group from Region 1, Queenstown Youth Group, Region 2, Anna Regina Youth Group, Region 2, West Bank Young Achievers from Region 3, Small Steps Big Impact Youth Group from Region 3 as well, Young Professionals Youth Group, Region 4, Grove Diamond Youths in Development, Region 4, Barbies Development Youth Group, Region 5, Golden Home Dharmic Youth Organization, this morning's participant, Region 6, number 58, Swing Star Community Developer Group, Region 6, Angoy's Avenue Youth Friendly Space, Region 6, Bartica Youth Group, Region 7, Madia Youth Group, Region 8, Linden Superstars Youth Group, our other participants, Region 10, Cast Talent Management, and Cummings Lodge Youth Movement, last year's victors. I would like to acknowledge the other members of our executive committee. Mr. CPO, Alonso CPO, is our tech guy, so you would not see his face on the camera, but I'm sure he would be able to show you the faces of some of the hardworking parliamentary staff who are able to bring our competition into the standard that we would want it to be and to make it a success. Mr. CPO, will you be able to have our viewers? Okay, thank you. We have Miss Juliana Chatterpaul. Julie, maybe you can wave to them. We can't see your hand. Yes, next to Juliana is Miss Sarita Bechun. Next, Miss Delon Adams. You can wave again, Delon. The camera is now at you. And directly behind them, on my immediate left, is Mr. Safraz. I can't remember his surname, but Safraz. And Safraz is our timekeeper, and that is why we're able to keep you on track. We have Miss Candace Gerard. Ms. Christina Ramru, Ms. Koala Robertson, and there are many others who are working behind the scenes. Over to you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Carletta. And I wanted to say over to the judges. But we probably have to get a computer program for the chief. The chief judge says 1 more minute. Yes, this is the second annual Speakers Youth Debating Competition, and we are coming live from the chambers of the National Assembly. This year, we are inviting participants who want to come and debate from the chamber itself.
Mr. Speaker, we ready? We want
Thank you very much, Chief Judge. Before I put you on, let me invite the other judges to make some comments. Let's start with Ms. Monet Christopher Garner.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, fellow judges. Good morning to our special guests and our viewers online. First, I wish to say thank you, sir, for having this forum again and for affording me the opportunity. Also, I wish to congratulate both teams for their informed presentations. With regard to my observation, I like the fact that both teams were able to define the key terms in the moot. It shows some amount of cohesion. It shows that you have a structure. Also, you've been able to say clearly what the other team members would be addressing. That's commendable as well. For some reason, I don't want to be too harsh, but for some reason, I think the proposition missed the point of saying why a collective voice is elusive. Rather, the focus was on the reasons or what is preventing them from having a collective voice. In terms of the opposition, I think there was good reasoning. I think there was some amount of research was done here, and statistics were provided to support their arguments. In terms of the use of the language, I think it was really used well this morning. I think you've been able to pause when there is a full stop, and it helps us to understand your presentation as a whole. In terms of your articulation, I think you were very loud and clear, but there were a little bit too much of hand movements. So you have to be careful there as well. In terms of your timing, I know our Honorable Speaker said it was impeccable, which I agreed with him, but there was some amount of reading. You have to be careful. You have to be able to learn your presentations and present to us rather than reading, because it takes away from what you're saying to us. And other than that, I think overall the presentations were well done. And so again, I wish to congratulate each and every one of you from both sides of the teams. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Garnett. To hear from Judge Niaz Subhan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks to, good morning once again to all those who participated. I must say, if I dare speak collectively using the term of the mood, I think on our side here, in the context of our guests, from the young and the restless, I think we were more restless, not so collectively young on this side. And we are dealing here with young people. But I am always impressed, Mr. Speaker, with young people getting involved in these endeavors. I wouldn't go into much details like my fellow judge here did. I think she made some of the points that I wanted to make. I felt that collectively, maybe being a little bit critical, collectively, maybe the topic could have been a little bit more explored. I don't think the exact target was hit, but I believe overall, not to give anything away from Mrs. Janet Paul's announcement, I think overall we saw a lot of enthusiasm. We can argue who did more research. Clearly, we can hear from that, from the debate itself. But I want to thank the young people for, first of all, getting involved in something like this, because we live in a very disruptive world, if I can use that term, Mr. Speaker, and sometimes it's very challenging to get young people to be involved in things like this. I recall early in the year, last year, when we launched the reading challenge at NCM, and how difficult that was to get at the initial stages to get people, especially young people, to send us a short video of them reading a book. Eventually it catched on, and UNICEF came on board, and we saw tremendous work. Even adults were involved in all of this. So for me to get young people to be involved in this, I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, the hardworking staff of Parliament, and I want to congratulate all of those who participated this morning and to wish them all the best.
Thank you very much, Niaz. Our Chief Judge, the Honorable Ms. Indrani Chandrapal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me also extend warm wishes, welcome as well, to our guests. It is indeed a pleasure to have you here. I hope today's event was exhilarating, listening to discourse that has just taken place. I want to start off by acknowledging with thanks the Speaker of the National Assembly for initiating this debate. I think it is a really brilliant opportunity to get our young people involved in this kind of discussion. You yourself, Mr. Speaker, as a debater in the National Assembly, as I always used to tell you, you were such a fantastic debater in the National Assembly. It was always a pleasure listening to him because he would have done his research very well. So I will start off by saying, for those who perhaps had some exposure to discourses and debates at various levels, for those who may not have been so fortunate, it is important for us to use the opportunity that has been provided in this initiative here by yourself as the Speaker and the parliamentary staff, for them to perhaps learn a lot more, because we know there are certain rules and we've seen a few of them not adhered to, and we have to be mindful of those things. That's the first one. Body language and confidence is very important in a debate, because if you want to influence other people or you want to get people to listen to you, too much movements is distracting. So that is another lesson for young people to understand, that you can use your body language, but you use it selectively to make points. And some have utilized that, but others have not done so well. But I am just thinking about future activities of our young people who have participated, for them to take heed of these things that are required when you are part of a debating team. Is you have to make sure that you portray confidence, and when you speak with confidence too. And you must be able to look at your audience so that you are seeing that expression and you're with them. You know if they're with you or not, because you have to look at them to make sure that you are seeing body language, head nods, and all these kinds of things give you an impression how you're doing. I think some of our speakers today have done well in the research, and I congratulate them for this. It is the way to go, because if you want to impress people with arguments, you have to do that research. It's critical. And you cannot generalize when you're making presentations like these. And therefore, I think it was a great experience for all those who have participated. It just goes to show by activities such as these will help to bring all our young people who are from our 10 regions together to be able to talk, to share, to listen, to observe, and to grow from these experiences. So I hope that we have more such events. And even, Mr. Speaker, for the future of other speakers, I think this is one of the best practices that should be emulated for the future, because it provides the opportunity that is so needed for young people. They're the future, as we say, and we want them to take up leadership position in various capacities. And this will certainly help them in the future. Now, the task at hand is for me to provide the results of today's event. From the side of the proposition, they have 662 points, and the opposition 798. So I want you to put, well, there are just a few of us, but let me congratulate the proposition. And I want to say to them, work harder next time. I'm sure you can do it. So let this first experience be something that you can learn from. And to the opposition, I want to say you've done a good job, but you have to keep working harder to have that perfect score. You have not got that perfect score as yet, but you have to work to get that perfect score. And the best debater today, we have unitedly agreed that Karamchand Sugrim, the second person from the opposition side, was the best debater in terms of his style, his body language, and his faultless, if you can say that, presentation. We think he is the best debater for today's event. And Mr. Speaker, I want to, on behalf of my colleagues here, to thank you for affording us this opportunity to be a part of this, to be judges for today's competition. And I thank you very much.
And thank you, Chief Judge and other judges. That's it for the first debate in the second Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. The winner today, this morning, the Golden Home Youth Organization and Mr. Sugrim as the best debater for this particular debate. We'll see you at 2 p.m. this afternoon, our time, for the second round in this second annual Speakers Youth Debating Competition. Thank you very much, judges. Thank you, staff. And thank you, Victoria and Vishnu, for being here with us this morning.
Not one cries, not a bit of grass. We love the open country of the